in every industry, there's good people and there's bad people. Be prepared, right? Don't go to Facebook and go, that's the builder I want because his pictures on Facebook are the nicest pictures that are on Facebook. That's a disaster. Get a builder who, first of all, has either previously worked for someone that you know very well, comes recommended from an architect, an engineer, an interior designer, a professional, and recommendation from somebody is key.
Today on Work Well, Live Well, I'm joined by Peter Finn, Pete the Builder himself, TV personality, master craftsman, and a man who brings pure passion to everything, from home rescue to surviving Hell Week. We're diving into what it really takes to build better homes, better habits, and a better life. So I'm going to ask the expert. So what's the biggest mistake people make when they're renovating their home?
Being unprepared is the biggest mistake that people make. So basically what they do is they have a vision at the end, and like Instagram and AI, they skip to they can produce it too quickly and too easily. So they think that you can do that in reality, but you can't. So, what I would say is, so being prepared is not just about knowing what you want, it's about understanding the process. So do I need an engineer? Most likely, yes. Do I need an architect? If you're getting planning permission, absolutely you need an architect. Is it an interior designer or an architect I need? Have I discussed this with my partner is another huge one, because you often get lads going, we just need an extension because we need another room for, the kid that's coming. And then you meet the couple together and they go, oh, no, well, I actually want, the bathroom changed and something else like that. So if I'm a builder going into that environment, I'm going, look, these people actually don't know what they want. So it's very hard for me to price that, but also it could be a bit of a time wasting situation, So what I would say to anybody who's doing any renovations is think about it a lot, get the right people on board in terms of get any professionals that you need on board, then meet your builder, and you're meeting them with, no, it doesn't have to be the exact total to the millimetre finished product, but at least 90 to 95% of the way is a massive help. You're going to then actually get a price for what you want to get done. The builder will take you more seriously, and it'll just make the process much easier. Make sure you have your finance in place. Make sure you understand your budget and be realistic with your budget. Because people go, I have 200 grand, so that's loads of money. So I'm going to get an extension, I'm going to get my kitchen done, I'm going to rewire the house. And you're like, no, hold on for a second. You're not going to get that much done for that much money. 200 grand is a huge amount of money, but it'll only get you a certain amount of work done. So all of those kind of conversations and preparations are key. And it'll make the process much easier if a client understands the process, if the builder understands exactly what he's being asked to deliver. The architect has actually given them the information and gone through the details with it. They have full planning permission to do it. They have a QS if they need one to have the prices right, all of those type of things. And then you start the project. Whereas too many people go, I have a few quid, I want the job done, let's go. And that, for me, is not a good situation.
You have to understand, why would you want an extension or renovation as well? I was advised when I was thinking of it before, why do you want renovation? Or would it be better for you to move house?
Yeah.
And to answer those questions, because I don't know, well, I was definitely guilty of, I was like, well, I just want more space.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people just building these big squares onto the back of the house.
Yeah.
And just having this ginormous kitchen.
Yes.
For what? But the rest of the house, where the rest of the living space is, hasn't really changed. So, you have to consider all these type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that an awful lot where and sometimes it's even after drawings have been made up and plans have been delivered by an architect or an interior designer. And then when you meet the people, you go, they think they want more space, but they actually don't, because there's a room in their house they're absolutely not using. They have 2 sitting rooms and a big kitchen and open plan living room. So, unless you've got 10 people in your family that like hanging around downstairs watching television, you don't need that many rooms. Or unless you're someone who entertains all the time, has big dinner parties, maybe you need a dinner party room. But let's be honest, how many people really need that? So, I do think you're dead right. I think people need to think about what their end product is. So if you're a young couple who've started a family and you've got 2 bedrooms and you've got 4 kids, well, then it's another bedroom you need, or maybe even 2 bedrooms that you need. You'll probably need, if they're girls, you probably need another bathroom as well, because I have 3 girls and I can already see what's happening there. But, so those type of questions you have to ask yourself. And some people go, oh, I've seen this deadly thing on social media, I want a gym. And I go, okay, great. You do live beside the gym just down the road, and your house isn't that big, so you can spend all of this money creating a gym, that you probably won't use that much and is going to take away from your house, you know. So again, sometimes you just have to just let people live their dream as well, like, you know what I mean? And it's their money and they're entitled to do what they want. But I would always think, you know, it's a bit like the first answer that I gave about the preparation. It's you really think about it, you know, because people are busy, lives are busy, and I do think that sometimes you just make too quick of a reaction, a decision, you know what I mean? Instead of, so you react to a moment where you go, you know, oh, my cousin came over and I had nowhere to put them up, so, you know, I had to sleep on the couch myself, and I'm never doing that again, so now I'm going to build 2 more bedrooms. And they're going, okay, well, that was one moment. How many times has your cousin visits you, you know, that type of thing, you know? So, like, those type of decisions I find, sorry, my phone is buzzing in my pocket here. Those type of decisions, when people make those decisions, I always think that's an impulse, and it's usually the wrong one. So I would advise people to rethink the situation and make sure that it's the right decision for them. Because at the end of the day, right, you're going to spend a lot of money in construction these days, because let's be honest, the cost of construction has gone so high. It's not easy to get tradespeople, supply and demand. All of those things are in our industry at the moment. So if you're going to spend good money, make sure that it gives you good value. So if you're, let's say you want an extra room in your house, make sure that you build it in such a way that it may be dual functioning. So in terms of, if you want a room for somebody to come and visit, it can be an office as well. So it can be an office probably 90% of the time. And then it can also be an extra bedroom, a guest bedroom. Those type of things I think people need to consider. And it's also adding value to their home if they're going to sell it then. Do you know what I mean? At the moment, one of the best investments in your home is energy upgrade. You know, we've got the BER rating, so the building energy ratings of people's homes. And if you look at any estate agents, there will be a BER of every house, so it could be from as low as G up to A. And if you're purchasing that house, you know, okay, look, I'm buying a B1 or an A-rated home here. I've probably got very little upgrade to do. But if you're buying an F-rated home, immediately you know you need to put a huge amount of money into simply the energy upgrade of your home or the retrofit of your home.
And what type of grants are available for anybody who's looking to do an energy upgrade?
At the moment, it's a huge amount of grants. So our government, those lovely people, have committed to huge targets that they've got to reach in the EU. And we've got 2 dates that we've got to meet them in. One is 2030, which is not that far away. And then the second one is 2050. Now, the target that we've set as our own government for 2050 is colossal. Like, it's a serious amount of upgrade needs to be done on our buildings in our country to get our energy efficiency as a country to a certain level. Now, it's a whole load of different things, you know, like EV cars and all these type of things come into the mix as well, and, you know, manufacturing and all these type of things as well. But we just speak about homes. We've committed to having our homes by 2050 to be, you know, pretty much all A-rated homes, which is a serious amount of work that has to be done between now and then. 2030, there's less targets. So if they don't reach those targets, they're going to get huge fines. And therefore, our government are motivated to reach those targets, and how they're motivating me and you as homeowners to commit to that is by giving us grants. So they've basically put up these grants to make it available to the general homeowner to upgrade their home. So they're motivating us at the moment to do that. So it's through the SEAI, and pretty much I'm sure most people have heard of the SEAI, which is a government-backed entity, and I'm going to be honest, it's a really good system. They've done a really good job. And when it first came out, I was like, oh, here we go. Another one of these government-backed things that are going to just kind of maze you along and not work. And I didn't know how they're going to regulate it and all these type of things. But in fairness to them, they've put a serious system in place. The grants are very easy to apply for. Pretty much anybody that's listening to this podcast can go on the SEAI website. They put in their NPRN number, and they don't even have to do that. They can just look at the grants that are available to them. It's based off your home, so it's not actually means tested. So it doesn't matter how much money you're making or I'm making, or if we're on the dole, or if we're, you know, a corporate high flyer. It's the house that actually gets the grant. So it's not the person. So if your house is below a certain rating, excuse me, and it's BER, so if it's lower than a B1, you're eligible for some of the grants to get you up to B1, because that's the target. We want our homes to be at least B1 or better, and therefore there's loads of grants. So there's grants for attic insulation, wall insulation, external wall insulation, there's a huge amount of grants out there. Obviously, they're trying to get people to convert from fossil fuels to more energy efficient methods of heating the home, which mainly is an air to water heat pump. So there's huge grants guiding you towards that, and there's a few different structures. So if you are someone who is on the dole or is in it meets certain criteria, you can go through what's called the Better Home Scheme, and again, that's a really good scheme, and it basically, so an awful lot of corporation homes and council houses are eligible for that, and they absolutely will get that done for pretty much free. They still have to apply and still have to kind of put their hand up to say that they want to get it done. And then you have the individual grants, which again is like you can decide, look, I need the attic insulation done at the moment. I don't have the money to do the whole house, but I'm going to put more attic insulation in. You can apply for the grant for that, or you can do it with the walls. You can do it individual grant way. Also, you can go for solar and stuff like that. But then you can also do what's called a one-stop shop, which is basically where you go to. There's companies set up across the country that are one-stop shops. So you apply to them, or you contact them, and they will actually come out and they'll do a full survey of your home, and they'll let you know what you're going to be eligible for, and then it all goes through them. So they'll do all the paperwork for you, and they do all the work. So it cuts out an awful lot of trying to resource tradespeople and all of those type of things. But not every home is eligible for that as well. So there's a couple of different criterias, but it's not that complicated. And again, it's free money. And I don't know about you, but the government don't often give me free money. So I've taken advantage of a couple of the grants actually. I'm getting solar panels in the new year, and I've put in an air to water heat pump in this year as well. So I've actually availed of the grants in both of those situations as well, and I did find the process quite easy, So yeah, there is grants out there, and I would advise people to have a look at their home and to do it. And the last point I'd make on it is you can get an independent assessor to come to your home. It costs somewhere about €500, somewhere between €500 and €600 to get an independent assessor to come to your home, and they do what's called a HAE. So it's a HEA. It's a home energy assessment, and I got that done, and it gives you a full. Now I understood an awful lot of it, but I was able to sit down with my wife and we were able to look at what we needed to do to upgrade the home. It's given to you in a very structured way, and it'll actually identify immediately the weakest areas of your home, and it'll make you really aware of that in a very transparent and easy way, and therefore then you can make your decisions where you go, look, it's really obvious we need to put attic insulation in here, or it's really obvious we need to do X, Y or Z, and you can make your decision based off, again, a proper structured qualified report, So it's a really good time to take advantage of that stuff, and it's amazing how many people are not taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people wouldn't even have a valid BE or certain place. What would the average 3-bed semi in Dublin, what would the built in the 70s, what would their energy rating be, and how much would it cost maybe to get them up to a B1?
But it's funny, like the way you said, built in the 70s,
yeah.
Like I can nearly picture that house already,
Yeah, you know the one.
And they would be quite low, because in the 70s, people had started to consider a bit of interior decoration and a bit of style. So what you had a lot of then was flat roofs, a lot of concrete structures as well, because back then there was a lot of strikes by the brickies. So to avoid that, then what they did, they started making concrete. They started pouring concrete houses. So you got an awful lot of concrete structures rather than blockwork structures. Now there still was a lot of blockwork as well, but it was a different world back then. And even usually if the house hasn't been upgraded, it's usually single glazed windows in, which is freezing cold, and very little insulation. So those homes, and again, it could even be like what's the system, the gun barrel heating systems, you know what I mean? Like you're talking old school here, and a lot of times it's old wiring as well, which wouldn't be up to current code. So if you're in the 60s or 70s era, you probably got a house that was tried to make look stylish, but is usually extremely energy inefficient. So in other words, very low rating and quite big homes, quite big windows, and very little insulation. So they would usually need a lot of upgrade. Into the 80s, it kind of went into more structures. That's when housing estates became kind of, there was a lot of housing estates being built. So you're kind of more going into that kind of a smaller housing estate type size of a house. And they started considering cavity wall construction at that time, which is your two individual walls. Sometimes there was no insulation, so you can get that pumped, or you used to have the old expanded white foam insulation in there, which is not really great, but at least they were considering insulation for the first time properly. Then into the 90s, insulation properly started coming in. And it was only really in the the mid 90s when we really started to consider our insulation values properly, and the scientific and technology kind of side of things came into play properly. Double glazed windows were definitely a must, and then straight up into triple glazing. And then when we came into the noughties, the 2000s, it was like, again, there was a huge jump. I built my own house in 2007, and I built higher than the building regulations at the time. My house now is way lower than the current building regulations, you know. So even though I built higher than the building regulations in terms of the amount of insulation I put on the walls and the amount of insulation I put in the attic, I was being clever, and I was doing the right thing, and I was thinking a little bit ahead, but even my thought process then is way behind where we are now. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So over the years, we've massively increased the amount of energy efficiency in our home, and the technology of our homes has got much better. So now you can look at your phone and you can tell the heat and the temperature of your hot water, the heat of the temperature of your rooms. You can change you can even close your curtains if you really want to, you know, on your phone. Whereas years ago, obviously, those things were, you know, not possible, and they weren't even thought of. So I suppose, to answer your question, because I've gone a long-winded way around doing that, but to answer your question, 60s to 70s, you're probably talking a full rewire, and most likely a full replumb if you're bringing it up to, if you want to get that house up to, let's say, a B1 or an A-rated house, you're talking a considerable amount of investment to do that. There was usually no floor insulation as well at that stage, which is probably the most difficult one to do, because you pretty much have to break the floors up to put in insulation to then put in new floors, which does allow you also to do underfloor heating and things like that as well. So whenever I'm doing a retrofit of that age of a house, the floors, it's usually a commitment to, look, let's say we're going to break out all of the floors. It allows you to put in more drainage, allows you to put in a lot more pipe work and some electricals underneath the ground. And you can go for systems like underfloor heating systems, which work really well with the air-to-water heat pump systems. Then into the 80s, you're probably talking, the wiring is probably okay. You might get away with, you know, keeping a lot of your wiring. In the 90s, you're definitely where your wiring is okay. Then in the 80s, again, your insulation values are probably lower, and you just need to upgrade them, you know. So it's nearly, the older the house, you can be pretty sure the more money you've got to put into it. And as our construction technology and our construction regulations started to get better as the years went up, look, it makes sense, the newer the home. Like if you bought a home in the last 5 to 8 years, you're buying an A-rated home, and like they run really efficiently. So the energy bill for an A-rated home in comparison to a 1970s F-rated home, like, you're talking thousands for running your home at that rate, and you're talking low hundreds to run a more modern home, you know. So another thing is your investment will give you a return, and people go, oh, well, it'll take ages. If it's your forever home and you're going to live there for a long period of time and you're going to raise a family there, every single euro that you invest in your home is an actual investment, and it's going to save you money going forward.
Yeah. We availed of the mortgage grant. There's a mortgage grant as well. Isn't there a lower rate, I think?
For the green energy, is it?
For the green energy.
Yeah, it's called a green loan, I think, yeah. So again, it's another incentive, yeah. How did you find that?
So when we renovated our house there last year, I think we were C3 or
Right, yeah.
D, got it up to B1.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I mean, it was good. We got that rate,
Yeah.
we changed over to that rate, which was pretty good. It was a nice saving, but then interest rates came down
Yes.
at the same time. So typical. Yeah, but I don't know. I find in my house, even though we got it up, our heating bill at the moment is more
Is it, yeah?
than our mortgage.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's and like there's obviously a lot of rads in the house.
Yeah. Have you an air-to-water heat pump?
No.
Oh, do you know?
So
Okay.
what's the advantage with the air-to-water heat pump?
So you're using either gas or oil?
Gas.
Gas, yeah. So fossil fuel. So that lovely man Putin decided to invade the Ukraine. If you're on fossil fuel, you're always in a situation where the market is going to fluctuate to suit whatever's happening in a global situation. So every time there's a war, every time somebody decides to crash a barge boat in the Suez Canal, all of these type of things affect the global market. If Donald Trump is on the toilet sending out a tweet and he sends out some stupid tweet about oil, you know, you can be guaranteed that your oil is going to go up in cost. And there's a huge push environmentally to stay away from fossil fuels. So I suppose if you can have solar panels on your roof and you can have your house that is got one energy source, which is electricity, you're in a very good situation. At the moment, we're not completely self-efficient, but if you go all in and you put enough solar panels on your roof now, the technology in the solar panels is massively advanced. The old tube type ones are gone. It's all flat panels now, and also just battery storage. So basically, you can use the energy that you've generated during the day. You can then use your batteries for that. Do you know what I mean? And you can actually switch from using the grid to your batteries during peak times, so that you're making sure you're going on the lower rate. Also, you can actually send energy back into the grid, and you don't get money back on that, but you'll get credit. So that goes off your bill. So there's a huge amount of options to help reduce your costs. Like I was in your house, and it's a stunning house, and congratulations, it's gorgeous, but it shouldn't be costing you that much to run it. You know what I mean? If you're at B1, you're spending too much money to heat that house through your energy, which is gas at the moment. You know, now gas is cheaper than oil, so it still sounds. You must have a very low mortgage if your energy costs are higher.
Yeah, it's low. It's low, all right. But here's my question: so with a bigger house, is it more efficient to leave the heating on all the time on a stack at 21 degrees, so it's just tipping on and off? Or is it better to leave it on a timer where the house actually cools down to maybe like 18 degrees, and then the boiler's running continuously to get it back up to 21?
Yeah.
That's the question that I'm always going back and forth with.
Yeah, so again, if we're talking about a fossil fuel boiler, and you have mentioned that, and you have that at home, so that's probably what's in your head, it's probably still more energy efficient to let it turn on and off. So basically at night your heating switches off pretty much. But so our modern heating systems all work off thermostats now. So basically, just for anybody that doesn't fully understand what a thermostat is, it's simply a little mechanism that's on the wall in your house. It's usually at the mid level of your house, because it's trying to get the average temperature of the room. And what that's doing is it's reading the temperature in the room, and you can set the timer on it. Like, I know most people know this at this stage. Somewhere between 18 and 20 degrees is kind of, depends what type of a person you are. If you like a cool room or a warm room, and different rooms can be different. Like, I like a cold bedroom, whereas in the sitting room it's nice to have a warm environment in the bedroom. So 20 degrees in the sitting room, 18 degrees in the bedroom. But anyway, that is basically telling your boiler, I need more heat or I don't need more heat. So during the summer, obviously warm weather, it's most likely not going to need more heat from the boiler, except in the evening time for a certain period of time. So it's sending that temperature to your boiler, and your boiler comes on, it sends heat to your radiators, and your radiators radiate heat out into the room. And again, then the temperature gauge on the wall, your thermostat goes, okay, we've reached our temperature, sends a signal, thanks boiler, we've enough heat here, switch back off again. So that's a good thing to happen. So you've got on, off, on, off, on, off. And I understand your question is going, can we not just leave it on? But the problem is rooms would overheat if it's on all the time. And then also, it's inefficient to keep running the boiler, The best thing to do is to have your house insulated, so if you think about a fridge is insulated to keep the cold in, so it blows cold air in, and then it keeps the cold. If you walk past a fridge with the door closed, you shouldn't feel any cold coming off it, because it's all kept inside it. So if you could get your house to do the same thing, so if you can get your house to keep the heat in it for longer, that means it's going to take less to heat that house. It's going to cost less, and it's going to take less energy to do that. And obviously the energy is the cost. So if it's an air-to-water heat system, the way that it works is that the heating system is always available, because there is a bit of an urban myth there where people go, oh, it means that the boiler, they call it a boiler, it's not a boiler, it's an air-to-water heat pump. So it basically is always available. So it's always going, listen, I'm here when you need me. So when you need me, I'm just going to come back on again. So it'll constantly keep on topping up constantly keeping. So when you walk into a house that's got an air-to-water heat pump, if you walk into it at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's going to feel at a certain temperature. If you walk into it at 10 o'clock the next morning, it's going to be the same temperature, and 6 o'clock in the evening, it's going to be the same temperature, because the thermostat is constantly topping it up. So that's kind of answering your question there. Whereas with a gas, you can actually say to yourself, I'm not going to allow my gas come on during the middle of the day because we're not here. So I'm going to actually set my time clock to say from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the day. There's nobody in the house because the kids are in school. Myself and the wife are out working. I don't need my house to be hot. But at 2 o'clock, then my thermostat's going to go, right, what temperature is it? Right, I need heat, and it tells the boiler to come on again, and it's like, whoa, energy being used, radiating heat into the building. So the concept of the heat pump is you don't do that. What you do is you just keep your house tipping away. But if you put an air-to-water heat pump into an F-rated home, it's never going to turn off, and you're going to get a huge energy bill. But if you put an air-to-water heat pump into a B to A-rated home, it's only going to come on as it's needed. So it's going to send the heat in. The house will actually keep the heat in it. So it's saying, I know the heat pump is there to give me heat when I need it, but I don't need it because I'm well insulated. I've got a good envelope here that's retaining the heat, and therefore you're not demanding and therefore not using energy as much as you need. You know, does that make sense?
Yes, you'd need to have the house like wrapped, good windows, insulation, the attic before you consider an air to water.
They call it fabric first, which is a very sensible way of looking at it. So instead of going for the lovely big fancy kitchen, insulate the house. You know what I mean? That's hard to say to the missus, and it's hard to say to some lads as well. You know, you're not getting your big fancy bathroom. What we're going to do is we're going to spend that money on insulating the house. So therefore, rather than spending money on solar panels, spend it on the fabric of the building. Get your insulation. So fabric first, get your insulation and your air tightness and all of those things that will actually retain heat in the home. Get them done. Make sure your windows and doors are not leaking air. Make sure they're double or triple glazed, even better. Then you're saying to yourself, right, if I put any heat into this house, it's going to retain it. And then once you have your fabric done, then you can make it as fancy as you like, because you now have an energy efficient home. So it doesn't matter, like if you're using a fossil fuel system that's radiating heat out, it will retain for longer. But at that stage, it's much more efficient to use a low energy available system, because the house only needs a small amount of top up of heat. And another thing that you're getting is 24-hour hot water as well from an air-to-water heat pump. So if you're using a fossil fuel boiler, you have to tell the boiler when you want hot water, because you see, again, you're saying at 2 o'clock I might come home from the gym or from a football thing, or definitely in the evening there's stuff happening, we need hot water. So you have to tell your boiler to make that water available to you through a very simple time clock. But with an air-to-water heat pump and that type of a system, it's 24 hours. So if you come in at 2 o'clock in the morning after a few pints and you want to have a shower or a bath, off you go. Do you know what I mean? There's 24-hour hot water there. And the systems are intelligent. So what they'll say is, okay, I have 3 daughters, like, so two of the girls have had a shower. I need to prioritise the hot water. So it won't send heat to the underfloor heating system. It'll say you're okay for a while. We're going to make sure that the hot water is back up to the temperature it needs to be. So it prioritises, you know. So the systems are much more intelligent these days, you know. So it's pretty cool stuff. And it's kind of happened as the norm now. And as a homeowner, you don't have to know any of this stuff. You just have to know you're going to get 24-hour hot water. And whenever I hand over an air-to-water heat system to people, and we only just did this recently in Naas to a lovely couple, and they said, so what do we need to know about the heating? And I says, see that thermostat? If you're cold, turn it up. If you're hot, turn it down a tiny bit in the rooms. And I said, do not touch another thing, because that's what you need to do. Still need to get a service once a year, but don't touch it, because if you get meddlers, if you get someone who goes on AI and starts, you know, GPT chat, you know, how do I turn the hot water in my thing up and down? It's a mess. They start changing all the stuff. Get the person who's qualified and knows how to do it. The system will be commissioned, and you'll be commissioned to a certain temperature. And if you say, listen, we'd like a little bit more hot water, you just tell them they'll come in, they'll get it done in a couple of minutes for you. Whatever, it's an hour. Get your system serviced once a year, exact same as any system, and you've got like 24-hour hot water and a very energy efficient system. So like, I was a non-believer, if I'm honest, and now that I have it myself, my own house is perfectly even temperature any time of the day, 24-hour hot water, nice large amount of hot water storage as well, and my energy bills have come down massively as well, you know.
Yeah, that's really.
And I got a grant.
And you got the grants.
And last thing, we're doing a bit for the environment. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no fumes coming bellowing out of a boiler out into the sky, greenhouse gas. Like, and look, I'm not a tree hugger, but I can certainly see, like, we had a weather event last night. True. You know, we're having weather events all the time. You know, you can see hailstones landing in Spain during the summer, like, you know, so our environment definitely needs a bit of TLC, and if we can do it while getting a grant from the government to upgrade our home and get 24-hour hot water in a nice warm environment, it's a triple win. And I really do think that people should. But you know, people don't like change, and they don't like, they grew up with the immersion, they grew up with the boiler. It's simple, it works for me. That old new technology, I don't like it. Look, younger people are, you know, they grew up in the communication era and they know more about the phones than me and you would, but I think they're more accepting the newer systems, whereas the old school people are a bit more reluctant because they just have this fear. Like, there's a lot of myths out there. Oh, it'll make a big humming sound. It's on 24/7. My energy bill's going to be really high. And again, if it's fitted by the wrong person, it'll probably hum. If you have a really like bad energy efficient home, like a really low BR rating, and you put an air to water heat pump in, yes, it is going to cost you more money. Yeah. You know, so in the wrong situation, absolutely it's the wrong thing to do, but in the right situation it's 100% the right thing to do. And in most situations these days, modern homes, modern construction, it is the right thing to do.
It's change, isn't it? And the builder who did my house, good guy, an older guy, but you were a team of older guys. They were gas tickets, and I put the stats in, myself, the wireless stats, in around the house on the zones, and he was like, "Oh, will you put that in for me?" Deadly. So I went down to his house and we put it in for him, and I had many phone calls.
Did you?
Explaining. This is how stats work, and he was ringing me and said, "I've got the fire on now, and do I turn this down or do I turn it up?" I said, "Just leave it alone.
It knows what to do." Yeah.
So eventually he took the batteries out. I went back to the way it was. You know, he just couldn't get his head around it. But, you know. So I remember when I was doing that project myself, and like relationship between me and the builder was key, because it can be a stressful time. So what tips would you have for managing a relationship between a client, and for a client managing a relationship with a builder during a project?
Yeah, so I suppose let's break the stereotypes, right? Because there is the stereotype out there that every builder's out there to screw you. You know, they're going to do as little as they can and try and charge you as much as they can, and they won't come back and do the snags and all of this type of stuff. So in every industry, there's good people and there's bad people. So the first thing I'd say to you is, again, like the very start, be prepared, right? So don't go to Facebook and go, "That's the builder I want," because his pictures on Facebook are the nicest pictures that are on Facebook. That's a disaster. Get a builder who, first of all, has either previously worked for someone that you know very well, comes recommended from an architect, an engineer, an interior designer, a professional, and ideally you have some sort of what's the right word? A recommendation from somebody is key, absolutely key, because then, so like if you said to me, so you just said to me that builder that you had working in your house was sound. Well, I say to myself, well, look, if Dave thinks he's sound, there's a good chance that I'm going to find him sound. Whereas if you know what I mean, if you said to me, "Listen, your mum's okay, but I didn't really have a great experience with him," well, then I say, well, that's if that's the way it worked with Dave, it's probably going to be the same thing with me. So therefore, I would avoid that person. Meet them. You're going to end up in a relationship with them for, could be 6 months, could be 9 months, depends on the size of your project. If you clash in the first couple of meetings, there's a good chance you're going to clash for the rest of them. But here's the thing: be sound. Give the person a bit of respect. You're going to expect respect off them, and they're going to expect respect off you. So from a builder's point of view, if somebody starts speaking down to me pretty much from the start of it, and if somebody starts kind of, you know, just not dealing with me in a way that I feel comfortable with, I'll be totally honest with you, I'll just eject. I will just say, "Listen, I don't think this situation is going to work out for both of us, so thanks very much, but this one isn't for me." And it took me a long time to do that and understand the right time to do that, because what's the point in going into a mad stressful situation when there's a lot of money involved, you know? So like, I built my own home, so I understand the stresses of having to finance it. But it's not the builder's fault if you can't pay for your job. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the builder's fault if you can't give him decisions. So the more prepared you are in terms of knowing what you want and having the finance to do it, and having a good, clear understanding of what you want. And if you're very transparent at the start of the project and go, "Look, guys, this is my budget. This is the time frame that, you know, you've told me you're going to do the job with. Is there anything that's going to stop that from happening? Like, you know, have you cleared your schedule to allow you to have men here on the job every day? Are we in a situation where I'm going to get a high quality product for the amount that I'm charging, or sorry, the amount that you're charging me?" Yes is the answer, right? because they're going to sign a contract as well, and you are protected by your contract as well. So if you're doing work anything over 50 to 60 grand, I would always say there should be some sort of a contract in place. And that's not a quotation. Now, quotation is one thing, but like a simple contract of works that has rules in it. And then at that stage, you usually would have a contract administrator who's usually an architect or an interior designer. There's different forms of contracts. There's really complicated ones for €1 million and above jobs. And then there's very simple ones for the smaller jobs. And they come in different forms of contract, and there's a pink and a blue and a yellow and all this type of stuff. I would highly recommend that you get that contract in place. And you go, look, lads, this is the rules of engagement. You don't give a deposit to start off with. Like, you should never give anybody a deposit up front. Whenever I hear, oh, well, he came when he told me he was going to start in 2 weeks' time, and he asked me for 40 grand. I was like, okay. And the overall project was 60 grand, and you gave him 40 grand 2 weeks before he turned up to the site. And, that's naive. Like, that's ridiculous. If a builder turns up and he goes, look, here's my payment schedule. I do need deposits because I need to put to pay a deposit to the window company and the sanitary ware. It's a tight, let's say, 12-week duration of the project. So if I get the deposit now, I can make sure that the windows are there on time. That's all perfectly, understandable, and that's perfectly done. But other than that, it's stage payment. So basically, you pay the person for the work that they've done on site. So if they've done 2 weeks' work, they submit a claim, or they've done a month's work, they submit a claim to that value of work. So it's like, I've got the block work done, I've got this work done, I've got that work done, and here's the value of it. So you're actually, the builder is actually financing the project for you to a certain point. Here's the thing. If he submits the claim and you don't have the money to pay him for 2 weeks, you can't really expect him to continue on. Now, there are terms within the contract of you've got 10 days to pay and all this type of stuff. But like, if you want the job done quickly and efficiently, pay quickly and efficiently, but only pay based off a proper submission of a claim, based off what work that's done. So again, just to keep it simple, if this project is 60 grand and the guy's been there for a week and his first claim is 30 grand, you're like, well, hold on, you haven't got half of the work done here. You know what I mean? I can definitely see 15 to 20 grand's worth of work done here. Do you know what I mean? Like, just be open and be fair and honest about it. And then also, client decisions are very important. So if you've got a decision to make on what tiles you want, what kitchen you want, what windows you want, what colour everything is going to be, you have to make those decisions quickly and efficiently. And if you do that, well, then the builder has no excuses, really. So you're paying them on time, you're giving them decisions on time. You have to make sure that your architect and your professionals, like your engineer and all of those people, are on board as well. So like, if I'm a builder and I'm working away and then next minute they say, look, this window, we're not sure if we want it this width or that width, the architect's going to tell us. So I go, okay, grand, now look, I need to know next week, because like, I'm cutting all the opes out next week. And after that, then we're moving on to the next phase of the work. So I'm kind of falling back on myself then. Then next week comes and then the information still doesn't come. I'm moving on to other work. I'm not doing that type of work now. So then 2 weeks later, eventually the thing comes through. I haven't been able to order the windows because I didn't have that final size. Now I was moving on to carpentry work, but now I have to go back and do breakout work. Do you know what I mean? And I know that might sound a little bit petty to some people, and God bless you have to go back and do other type of work, but it's about scheduling and it's about speed. So try and minimise those type of things. Look, construction is not an exact science, and there are times when you walk into a room and you go, oh, do you know what, I actually thought it was going to be a bit brighter, we'd like to have the window a bit bigger, and all these type of different things can come into play. Totally understandable. But if you come in and you go, listen, we've decided we're not going to put that wall in and that wall in, and we're going to go for 4 bedrooms instead of 2 bedrooms, like, that's colossal changes, and those type of things are what cause problems in the main. So then what happens is, the client's perspective is, oh, well, he gave us a price of 120 grand, but now it's 150 grand. And you're going, yeah, but it was a 2-bedroom house and now it's 4 bedrooms. And you also, have put in a bathroom where you've changed, the tiles were going to cost 5 grand. I know you've chosen a marble tile, which has cost 10 grand to buy and 2 grand more to lay. So all of those things you have to allow for. And again, be sound about it. Go, no, I did make that decision and I'm happy to pay for the extra for it. So all of those type of things are what I like. Time and money is usually what causes the problems in construction, and it comes from both sides. A builder doesn't do it quickly enough, or a client or an architect doesn't give the information across quick enough. So the builder is annoyed on one side and then the client is annoyed on the other side. And then money, if a builder's not getting paid enough to do what he needs to do, there's stress and pressure on him, or if he tries to charge more than what he said, it causes stress on the client. So in that situation, you need somebody to administrate, and that's usually the architect come in and say, hold on for a second, now this was the price, and okay, there was a slight change, but hasn't changed by 10 grand, it's changed by 3 or 4 grand, so can we agree that? Or QS would normally do that, So again, we live in the communication age. The day of, if a builder says to you, now listen, I'll give you that price at the end, that's a red flag. You say, no, just tell me how much it is now. Like if we're doing a small change, I need to know, how much it is, and therefore, am I going to give you the go ahead or not on it? Whereas in the old school thing, what people used to do was they'd come in, let's say it was, again, just picking figures out of the top of my head, it was 80 grand to do the project. And in the end of the job, they go, and here's another 10 grand's worth of work, because remember you asked me to change that door and do that. And then you're like, well, I don't have 10 grand, and then it causes big stresses. So again, these decisions, like we all have phones, so instant photographs can be sent to each other, text messages can be done, email is the best and most official way of doing it. And again, if there's a design input needed, you need to get the professional involved. So I suppose the simple principles are, make sure you work with someone that you know, make sure you work with someone that has been recommended to you, and you have a good idea you're going to get on well with, because there's a relationship there that has to go ahead. Give them respect, get respect back, make sure there's a paper trail, make sure everything is transparent. Just be open and honest and fair, because again, it's not fair for a builder to be throwing extra costs on and looking for extra money, but it's also not fair for a client to be throwing in extra work and expecting it to be done for free, or expecting it to be done for in less time than was agreed, or if there's extra work put in, it's going to take a little bit longer to do the job. So it's just being open, being fair, and being transparent. And you know what? Most situations people are sound like that, But again, it comes down to understanding the process, because, an awful lot of people actually don't understand what it takes to do a construction job. They think they can still live in a house with no dust, and you're, pulling half of the house down, that type of thing. So I think I'm always very open and honest and a bit direct as well at the start. I'll say, now listen, like if you're trying to live in the house while we're doing the extension out the back here, you do realise you can't walk out the back garden. You do realise your kids cannot come past, the hoarding that we've set up here, all of those type of things. And again, once people understand that, and you'd be amazed, people go, oh no, but sure, I have a birthday in 3 weeks' time. And I go, well, you're going to have it in the play centre. You can't have it here because it's a building site, So simple stuff like that sounds really obvious, but you'd be amazed the amount of people actually don't think about stuff like that,
Always at the end of a project, I find, is when it gets heated, because like you said, time and money.
Yeah.
The time starts to build up, the money starts to run out, and that's when it really gets stressful, I find, for people. So,
and one other point, right? Snags and retention are the two other things, right? So, I suppose TV shows like my own and Room to Improve, that great man Dermot Bannon, and look, people are semi-educated now, right? And semi-educated is a very bad thing, because they only have half of the story, and most of the time they'll only want their side of the story. So people think retention is held for snags. It's absolutely not held for snags. Retention is held for any structural defects that may happen over the period of time from when the job has finished to usually, it's either 6 months or 12 months usually that retention is held for, depending on the size of the project. So basically what that allows is, listen, there's not a big massive crack in your gable end wall a year later. And if there is, you've got retention held for that. Snags should happen in the last week of the project. So you're not a year later still getting snags done. Now look, I'm going to be honest, people usually be in a rush to rush into the home, and they don't allow the snag process to actually happen properly. Loads of different things can happen. So it should be. So the way I try and do it these days is I will snag the house myself. Then I will ask the owner or the client to snag it, and then I will actually ask the architect or whoever it is, the interior designer, to snag it. And then you say, listen, now here's the snags. Now, I'm going to do this list of snags. There are no more snags now. So when you move your furniture in and you scrape the wall or you do all that type of stuff, that's not a snag. That's an extra. Or that's like, now look, again, most of the time you're going to be, look, it's a little thing, we'll patch it up. But what I find people were doing was they were going, oh, look, while they're here, you wouldn't just hang all of you wouldn't put the toilet roll holder in and the toilet holder in. That's like, could be, if there's 3 bathrooms, that's a full day's work for a carpenter. So if I haven't priced that in, I'm going, well, look, I can absolutely do it for you, but I am going to charge you a day rate for a carpenter. And they go, oh, well, I thought that was part of the bill. Like, this is where, the grey areas start coming in. Do you know what I mean? So I think you just need to understand what you're getting to the detail. And when it comes to retention, so 12 months later, you need to have that money ready to pay the builder, and it's not another big full snag list of problems that you're supposed to be able to give them to go, oh, look, I'm going to get the house repainted because I own, 5% of the overall project, So that's the way people are perceiving it, and it's not the way that it should be, you know. But again, you should be getting your house properly snagged before you move in again, and that sometimes that doesn't happen. Some people are so eager to get into the house, they go, oh, look around, you can come back next week and do this, you can come back next month. Before Christmas is a classic example. People just want to get into the house, and then in January a builder has to come back and they've still got a load of work to do. That's not a great situation. It can be difficult because it's hard to actually tell what's finished and what's not finished. Your ideal scenario is you hand over a turnkey product where you're going, look, I've snagged that house, you've snagged that house, your architect has snagged that house, there's the key, over to you, best of luck with it. That's your ideal scenario, but it's difficult to make that moment actually happen because people are very eager to move in because they're usually renting somewhere else, or, you know, they've sold a house and they want to get in. So I can totally understand the pressures, but if you can eliminate as many of those problems as you can, it will massively reduce the amount of stresses and issues that arise. And again, you're absolutely entitled to hold on to retention, but in 6 months or 12 months, whatever is agreed, you need to have that money and you need to be ready to pay whoever done the project for you that money, because again, there's no structural issues with the home at that stage. And again, look, if there is one or two things, you can say, look, would you mind having a look at this, the doors expanded or something like that. I'd have no problem going back for a day, doing a couple of touch-up things, but that's it. It's not a whole new snag of the whole house. Like if the kids have been baiting the walls and, you know, driving tractors up and down the you know, their little play tractors and scraping the walls, that's not my fault. It's a year later, you know. So they're the type of things that I have find are frustrating from my point of view.
Yeah, and a good an investment in a good QS, a bill of quantities, that just makes, I think, a much smoother process because from the side of the client, like, to have an understanding of extras, what's agreed as part of the price and the products, and then, you know, what isn't. It's vital to at that stage to have these conversations, say, well, now we're into extras, you know, before we engage to do this for you. We're really happy with it, but we're into extras now.
Yeah, so we call them variations. So, you know, a variation is basically something that is outside of what was originally agreed. And it happened in pretty much every project. And again, you know, to say, listen, we're going to do this project and there's no variations allowed or no extras or changes allowed, like, that's not realistic, and it's no one couldn't agree to that. As I said, massive changes are going to cause, obviously, massive changes in cost. And sometimes you might actually have to stop and go, right, look, there's a lot of changes going on here. We're going to have to just draw a line for a second and get it. But most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's small, subtle changes. It's like what I said earlier. We had €2,000 in for tiles, but now we've seen this gorgeous tile that we're going to definitely go for. That cost is now €2,500. So that's a €500 additional cost variation. Couldn't be any easier. There was 2,000 there. It's now 2,500. And it's put in a variations column. And again, if there's a QS involved, the QS will check that to make sure that that's correct. And then he should be saying to the client, yeah, I've checked that, and it is actually €500 more. So now you know your cost was X amount of money. It's X amount of money now plus €500. And then let's say the same thing happens with the doors or with something. Now, it can happen in the opposite way as well, where, I don't know, maybe for whatever reason there was 10 doors in the overall bill, but it only turns out there was 9 doors done on the project. Then the cost of one door is taken away from the overall bill, which again is absolutely fair enough, you know. So those type of things, once there's swings and roundabouts now, but, you know, I'm a builder, so obviously QSs are the vein of my life, you know. And again, I do look at me, I'm very fair, but I do expect a QS to be fair as well. And sometimes a QS just goes in with the mission, no matter what it is, I'm going to make sure that I look good, so I'm therefore going to reduce cost no matter what. And what that actually does is it demotivates the builder. So, like, if let's say, again, to keep the figures real simple, if I have 100 grand to do 100 grand's worth of work, and I've got this QS guy that has in his head he's going to get it done for 90 grand for no good reason other than he just wants to get it done. Like, it's impossible to do that. I can't lose 10 grand on the job just to satisfy this guy's ego. But if the guy is fair with me and he goes, look, you know, there was $10 in the thing and you only did 9, fair enough. I didn't have to buy the door, I didn't have to hang the door, I didn't have to do those type of things. If I had down for 60 square metres of flooring and I only did 40 square metres of flooring, 100%. But if it was down for 60 square metres of flooring and I did 70 square metres of flooring, well, then there needs to be an addition. And it swings and roundabouts. And QSs, you know, they're a strange breed. They have their own way of thinking and talking. But in fairness, a good QS, a good architect, a good engineer, a good client, and a good builder can do amazing things. And if you all work together, and I always say this, it's about being a team. It's not about them against me or me against them or anything like that. And you can't have favourites. Like if the architect and the builder are getting on well, but the QS is not involved, or the engineer is kind of on, we all need to work together. We all need to communicate together. And we all need to get to the end goal and just be fair and be sound. And once people are like that, you know, honestly, it can be quite enjoyable. Instead of it being a really stressful process, it can be quite an enjoyable process.
If we all work together as a team on different projects, now we're doing one at the moment together, and you just work together. I mean, that is your growth, that is your referrals.
Yeah.
That's how we do it, isn't it? So not being difficult and just, you know.
Yeah, but like again, if I've worked as part of a team, so let's say the architect was sound, the QS was sound, engineer was sound, and if let's say we finish a project and 2 months later or 3 months later I get another to price another job, I go, oh jeez, they were bang on to work for. I'll 100% work with them again, and I know they're not going to be unfair to me, so therefore I can price at the right price. Whereas if I've done a job and I know the QS has stung me for 5% or 10% for no good reason, I'm going to price that job for 105% or 110% because I know I have to allow for him taking the money out.
What's going to happen?
So he thinks he's being clever in one hand, but he's actually not. Whereas, so if it's a one-off kind of a situation, like I've got probably 5 or 6 QSs that I'll never work for again for simply that reason, because they just aren't being fair. Similar with architects. Sometimes architects, all they want to do is impress the client. From their perspective, they say, oh, look, builders are 2 a penny, and builders aren't 2 a penny these days. But if you just work fairly with people, like I've got at least 3 or 4 architects that I work with all the time, because I know they know what they're getting off me, I know what they're getting off them. It can be open and transparent, and we deliver a good project. And again, if someone says to me, you know, can you recommend a good architect or QS, whatever, I have no problem in recommending lads that I know will do a good job and will be fair to deal with. Whereas if somebody is being awkward or someone is being just one-sided, I'm not going to recommend them on, and most likely I won't work with them again.
You have to maintain relationships,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's so important. Can you tell me a bit about your own TV show?
Yeah, of course,
Rescue,
yeah. Yeah, so started off, I did Room to Improve with Dermot Bannon many moons ago, and on that there was 6 episodes in each series, and we were the builder of one of them. So we did a few of them. Sorry, we did actually 8, but the first couple, I got on well with Dermot, but I understood that it was a TV show as much as it was a construction show. So I would have a bit of crack and that would be shown. So I kind of said to myself, look, I kind of understood that, you know, if you give a good one-liner, there's a good chance they're going to show that part of it. And it was a great show to be involved in. But then Dermot did what Dermot did. He turned up late, didn't have information. And again, he tried to kind of sting me a little bit, you know what I mean? And I just gave it to him, like straight out, not happening, not accepting it. And of course, they loved it on the camera. And so we had a row basically. And people loved it, got great traction. And then we... but I still got on great with him in fairness and delivered a great show, and I got on great with him, great job as well, it was brilliant. But anyway, we've done 9 of the Room to Improve episodes as the builder. I think one series we actually did 2 in the same series, which I don't think has been done by anyone else before. But anyway, we've kind of been there and done that, and it was a really positive thing. It was during the Celtic Tiger kind of going on its holidays type of period of time, so having that TV show and that bit of profile that Room to Improve brought was good. It didn't guarantee anything, but it certainly gave you a bit of profile. But then we were busy, and you don't make money on those projects. You'll definitely get a good profile and you will cover your costs most of the time, but it's very difficult to actually make money. We got really busy on a couple of fairly big projects, and we did price, but we didn't win a couple of the Room to Improve projects. And we just said, look, you know, the production team were saying, look, we'd love to have you on again. And I said, look, I really do enjoy it, but at this moment in time, I can't do it. So for about 2 years, we didn't do any of the Room to Improve jobs. And then I got a phone call from the same production team. Jane Wardrobe is the girl's name, in Coco Television. And she rang me and she said, look, we've got another show that we'd like you to be involved in. And I said, look, you know, kind of been there and done that, Jane. Like, you know the situation, we're busy. And then she said, oh no, look, this is a different show. It's a show where it's not just about the build, it's also, there's an emotional side to it as well, and you're helping people out. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds a bit different. And I did. So I went and I met them, and then we did the 4th series. And like when I went on television and when we were doing it, I was like, okay, this is completely different. So it's about helping people. Now the show is now called Home Rescue. It was called Desperate Houses back then, but like, you know, there's usually a lot of need within the home. There could be a medical issue, you know, somebody could be, you know, maybe in some way disabled or immobile, sight issues, could be autism in the home. There's loads of different kind of challenges that the homeowners have and their families have. And what happens is the house kind of gets on top of them. A lot of time there's a lot of clutter within the home. So they're kind of living in the home, but they're not actually using it. It's a house, not a home. You know, an awful lot of the time it's just like people coming and going. People get disjointed because of whatever, you know, issues within the home. Sometimes people aren't eating together. They're like, you know, they're not connecting within the home, and the home kind of gets on top of them. Then we come in and we have like a really good crew. So we've got the clutter busters. Aidan Gately is the main guy who leads that. He comes in, literally clears the whole house out. So it takes all of the clutter out of the home. And then Dee Coleman is the designer, and Dee will do her design, and she will have visited the house beforehand, so she will have kind of understood most of the need. And then when the house is cleared out, and it sounds mad, but a lot of the time when the house is cleared out, you can actually see there's a socket there that I didn't know was there. There's a radiator there I didn't know was there, or more likely there's no socket there. I thought there was one there. So the challenges are nearly there already when the house is stripped out. She has her design, and I've got literally 3.5 days then to make that design come good. It's a great show. It's real positive. It's really hard work, really rewarding in terms of you're helping people out. So it's not, I wouldn't call it charity, but it's really helping people out. It's so positive. And again, you meet, like, every house is different, every homeowner is different, every challenge is different, and every result is different, you know. So it's cool. And people are just, Irish people love watching building programs, and look, we've been doing it for 9 series now, so you know the show was very well established now, and ratings are really good. We actually bet the 2 Johnnies, which I was delighted with. So we were on for a while, and then 2 Johnnies come on after us, and I loved the 2 Johnny show. And then I heard that our ratings were better. I was like, no way, it's great. So I can't wait to tell them, if you're watching, lads, we bet you. But yeah, no, it's a great show. And again, the positivity, like, I'll do the show and then I'll sit down with Sharon, my wife, and watch the shows, and I'm going to be honest, like, there's always a tear in the eye and an emotional part of it, you know. Some of them are heartbreaking, some of the situations, and it is definitely something that, you know, I get a lot out of, because I'd often, you know, look, we all have stuff where big stuff gets on top of us and stuff annoys us, and people get really drawn into, like, I don't know, like politics and, I don't know, the likes of the iPass Centre stuff. People get so emotional, and I can understand their anger, and I can understand why they're doing that type of stuff. But then we get to do something just really nice and be involved in a TV show where it cuts through all that. It's just positivity, because there's a lot of negativity, especially on social media. There's a huge amount of negativity and huge amount of anger and all that type of stuff. And again, I can understand some of it, but I also do think if we were just a little bit more positive to each other, how nice the world could be, you know, in a very small moment. Like, we all get lovely moments of positivity. Christmas is a great time where people come together and they kind of forgive each other for whatever's going on all year. All that type of nice stuff. Again, if you do these charity things like PA to House and all these type of things, you know, darkness into light. These moments are lovely, but I don't think we have enough of them. So to be able to be involved in a TV show where, you know, you're able to do something positive for 6 different people in different parts of the country, come into their lives, change their lives and their world, and leave them to it, then it's a really nice thing to do. And it's a little bit addictive, and I really do enjoy it, and it's such a positive thing to do. So I'm honoured, and I don't take it for granted, because to be able to be a carpenter and to be able to use my skills in such a positive way, as a builder, and, you know, I suppose I'm an organiser as well, and to be able to do that in such a positive way, it's a great thing, and I'm able to represent my industry, because, you know, again, we talked about the construction industry can get a lot of negativity and a lot of stereotypical stuff, whereas then a group of lads and ladies, like, you know, my crew, that come in and help people out and have a bit of crack while working hard. I think it's a nice thing. It's a great thing.
I love the show. I sit down and watch it, and I just get that feel good factor from it.
Yeah.
And you're just hooked into watching it, and you hit the nail on the head there. Like, the positivity of it is just, it's lovely. And what's the most fulfilling project you've done in home rescue?
Yeah, I suppose, well, the most fulfilling thing about home rescue is it's real, because, like, it's not, there's nothing manufactured in it. It's a real family in a real hurt situation, and to reach out and expose your I suppose home, and sometimes they do be in bad condition. You need to be in a really tough place to do that, and to expose your own life situation to the public, you need to be in a tight place to do that. So there's a real respect that you have to give to people for reaching out for help to start off with, and then it literally is done in 5 days, and we work hard and we do it. There's nothing manufactured. There's no such thing as like us putting up a paper wall or anything like that. Like, it's all real. I'm walking away from that house at the end on the last day knowing that I'm leaving behind a really good product. And look, that gives me great sense of satisfaction. But there's been 2 or 3 projects that I've looked back at and I went, wow, like that was tough to be involved in and a tough situation to see. Like, I've often rang Sharon on the way home from stuff and said, look, Sharon, just telling her the situation, and like, you would get quite emotional, like, do you know what I mean? And you would kind of be going, look, you know, I love you, and you know, we you know, things are tough at certain times, but we're in such a, you know, like, autism is so big, like the amount of people that we've helped with kids with autism, and like, again, I suppose while it's prevalent and it's certainly part of our society now, a lot of people don't fully understand it, and it's hard to understand because there's so many different effects and reactions. So one child, it could be touch, another child, it could be sound, another child, it could be light, sometimes it could be all 3. And again, like, we've done jobs where, you know, there could be 2 kids in the house that are autistic and they've grown. Like, we done one job in Kilcock, and I remember well, like, there was 2 kids and they were both over 6 foot. They were huge, and they were like, one was, there were twins actually, and they were 16 years of age, I think, and the father had a business, and he had to basically give up the business to look after the kids. He had health issues as well. So these 2 huge, big, strong lads, and one of them was more heavily on the spectrum than the other. And he had picked up the fridge and literally moved it across the other side of the room. Like, he was that strong. Do you know what I mean? So when you see those situations, and they had the house was all dark and dim because he was affected by light, and then we came in, like, cleared out the whole house, did the house we made the house much more user friendly for them, created a room for the 2 lads to be able to play in, gave them their lives back. Like, I mean, like, they were sleeping in separate rooms. One of the kids was sleeping on literally concrete blocks with a plywood back on it because he kept breaking the bed. Like, you know, stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't even fathom that until I seen it with my own 2 eyes. Like, you know what I mean? And you know, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And if you can come in and help people. And again, we're doing it in a quick situation. I'm not constantly ringing up, hey, how's things or anything. I'm not going to say that's the case. But I know I'm going in and I'm doing something really good for them. Do get to meet the homeowner. Sometimes I do get a good relationship with them. But in general, you're coming in, you're having an impact, and then you're leaving them in a much better place. And I think that's a huge thing. And you're letting them fend for themselves as well. Like, you're giving them a much better chance by changing the flow of the house, by giving separation so that, you know, the parents can reconnect together and let the kids maybe have an area that they can be in. There's an area, if there's, like, you know, a sensitivity area that, you know, somebody can go into, you know, rather than the whole house having to be like that, you know, like simple things like that. And I know when you say the words out, well, why didn't they just do that themselves? Because they didn't know, didn't have the time. And again, they didn't have an expert like Dee Coleman coming in, checking out the situation, going, right, well, look, how we can, sometimes I see the drawings and I go, oh, why are we doing this? Like, this is a bit mad, like, you know what I mean? And then when I understand the need, and then when I see it happening, and I understand the colours and the type of stuff, and I go, okay, right, wow, that's impressive. I don't have those skills. I understand a lot. My ability is to get the work done quickly to a very high quality, and Dee's ability to understand space, to understand flow, to understand the people's needs is phenomenal. And she gets to the root of the problem very quickly as well, because sometimes it presents as one thing, but then as you get to know the person, like maybe the person had a previous, you know, challenge that they still haven't probably got over, and you know, there's lots of different things going on in people's lives, you know. So it's a cool thing. It's like, you know, there's many layers to it, and look, the most important thing is I'm able to do something to help somebody, and then they're able to continue their lives in a better way, you know, and to be able to do that again with a crew of really sound, good people, and to enjoy it, and to be able to kind of look back and say, yeah, look, there's another 6 people that we've helped. We've done it like 9 series now, so that's like, you know, it's a lot of people that we've helped over the years, and yeah, it's just, again, it's great to be involved in. It really is, and it's something that I'm proud of, you know.
Must be very rewarding because on the show, they're really coming in like real life heroes. You can see these families like just struggling, and you know, you're in that struggle, especially with your own children. Like, there's nothing as worrying as a parent than when there's children with special needs. It's a heavy load, and the house, like you say, can just get in on top of you. So to just come in, that's how it it feels to watch it when you're watching. It's like
Yeah.
you are coming in like real heroes, and the change, and you know, when you walk away, you can actually see the expressions on the family's face, and it's
And
emotional,
that's
and it's
real.
tears, and it's
It's the OMG moment is when they walk in, because again they don't know what's actually being done, so they walk in and they can't help themselves, and loads of people say I'm not going to get emotional, and they walk in and 2 minutes later they're bawling, crying, you know, because they can never, first of all they don't see what's happening, but they never, and especially when they see sentimental stuff, or they go, oh my God, I've been wanting this all my life and now it's there for me, you know what I mean? So that's amazing. But look, you know, you mentioned that we're heroes, and thanks very much, that's a lovely thing to hear, but nobody's perfect. Like, I'm not perfect, none of the lads that work for me are perfect. We're just grafters that are going out doing our thing, and we're doing something nice for somebody. So I'm not going to claim that I'm a hero, I'm not going to claim that I'm some perfect person, because I'm not. But I am willing to work hard, and I am willing to help people out. And I don't do it every day of the week. I do it, you know what I mean, on the TV show, and I do a lot of charity stuff. But other than that, I'm just the same as everybody. I'm out there trying to work for my family and trying to earn for my family. So I'm far from perfect. But, you know, I have to say I'm proud of being able to do that. And it's great to have the old hero moments where they slow it down and they put the music in the background.
That's class.
I'll never walk away from that stuff. That's all cool. But I know, look, again, the whole thing is just such a very well produced, and very, like, the production team in Home Rescue are phenomenal. Like, they really do help before, during, and after and they're very sensitive, and they, you know, they're never out there to make somebody look bad. So I can fully trust them that they're going to, there's moments where I might look a bit silly or whatever, and I have no problem with that, because it is what it is. But they'll also give you the nice moments, and the most important thing is that they have their ethics are 100% to help the people out. It's not to, sometimes in TV it's all about the TV show, it's all about the finish, and I've been involved in one or two of those things where I'm going, right, they're willing to do anything here to get, you know, a certain moment. That's not Home Rescue. Home Rescue is not like that. It never has been. It's a real thing. If you get emotional, it's real. If you show no emotion, that's fair enough. Whereas I do see some shows being made and you can kind of go, that's a bit manufactured. And I've never been able to do that. I'm not great at it, if I'm honest. I'm not able to manufacture emotions that easily. I'm not an actor. But, you know, I am relaxed in front of the camera, and what you see is what you get. And my lads are the same, and any of the people involved in the show, like Dee is the same as well. There's moments where me and Dee could be killing each other, you know what I mean? Because she's out there loading a whole lot more work on it, on the job, and I can't understand why it is. And again, that's not manufactured. That's the God's honest truth, because I'm going on, we're never going to get this much work done in that period of time. And she's going, it's very important. And I said, well, would you tell me yesterday? And, you know, all those things happen, and it makes great telly. But again, the thing that I'm proud of is that it's real. And again, it is all done in that period of time. There's no way I ever go back next week and finish stuff or anything. I wouldn't have the time. And when we finish, you know, we put in serious hours, but we deliver a very good finish, and we know we're leaving a very good product behind. You know, it's all good. The
big reveal is the best moment.
Yeah.
The lump in the throat moment. I'd have that on like that, and I'm not messing, like a proper lump in the throat. Feel the tears coming right. It's sort of my eye again.
Yeah.
Don't mind me.
Yeah, who's chopping onions? Yeah.
But it is. It's very like you know, you can't fake that.
No.
And you can actually feel it coming through the screen. Like in the family's reaction, you see it in their face, and it's just like, wow, it's like you can see how you've done so many seasons of it, because it's
real hard work. But you know, that moment is probably what I'm saying is the addictive moment, when you actually see that. And again, whatever about, let's say, someone like me who's done a lot of television, you know, someone might say, oh yeah, well look, you're always saying that you don't have time, and you're always saying that, you know, it's been a long night. That's grand, right? But a homeowner who's got no media experience, who literally has just been given something that they have desperately needed, the help that they've desperately needed, and those real emotions, you can't fake that. And if you try to fake it, it doesn't work. So for again, I to get the lump and throat, I've often cried at home sitting, you know, watching, and even though I know what's happening, I was still watching and going, oh God, like, because it's the reaction of the person who's getting helped. Because again, they're not just getting a new kitchen because their old kitchen was bad. Again, the new kitchen because their old kitchen was in bits, and because they maybe don't have the money, they wouldn't have known where to start. The whole house has been cleared out. Do you ever clear out your van or your wardrobe and you say to yourself, I'm going to keep it like this forever. This is great. Unfortunately, 6 months later, it's back to where it was. But you get this Feng Shui moment. Is that what they call Feng Shui or whatever, where you get this like, oh, this is brilliant. This flow moment. And you can imagine getting that in your whole house. as well as an extra sensory room for your autistic kid, or if you've got bad vision, you know, stuff that's helping you navigate your home. Like, all of these things are just, you know, amazing gifts to be able to give to people through construction. Like, it's, and design. I have to say, it'd kill me if I didn't say design.
It's magic. It's magic.
That's cool.
One of my favourite things I seen in was Hell Week.
yeah, that was deadly.
That was so impressive.
Thanks, Dave. That was deadly. Now I love that.
Yeah, and you went all the way.
So, first of all, I was a Hell Week fan. So, you know, I done what they call the Celebrity Hell Week. So, basically, it was well-known faces and, you know, celebrities. It was European boxing champions. David Gillick, the runner, was on it. Tadg Fleming, the influencer, he was on it. And then there was like Satanto Halpine, rugby players, you know, international rugby players. So it was a cool thing to be involved in that setup. But I was a Hell Week fan beforehand, and myself and Sharon used to watch the show, and she said, "Oh, if you ever get asked to do that, you have to do it." And then I got asked to do that version of it. So I was lucky. I trained really hard for it, and I kept myself fit, and I got myself really fit. So I didn't go into it injured, because that's what happens to a lot of people when they go into any event. They train so hard that they actually go into the event injured. I went in really good nick in terms of I had no injuries, and I got myself as fit as I possibly could be. Now, I was 47 when I did it, so I was the oldest by nearly 10 years, and I definitely I think the nearest was 40, so I was like a good bit older than most people. And a lot of people were athletes who just retired, like, you know, so you're kind of in with a really mix of elite people. And then you have the DSs, and man, they will put manners on you, you know. It was such a cool environment. Like, I often say, like, if I had €1,000,000 to try and recreate that, I wouldn't be able to recreate it, because it's just the intensity, it's the moment, it's the production levels. Like, I was jumping out of helicopters into the sea. I was like being dragged out of bed in the middle of the night and made do all these mad torture things. And look, you knew they weren't going to kill you, but there was a moment there where you were going, maybe they would, you know. So it was a brilliant thing to be involved in. I made it right till the very last day, but I didn't go into the final event. So it was late on the very last night that I got eliminated, even though I finished. It was a time challenge. So 6 of us finished it, 7 of us finished it, and only 4 went into the last day. So the 4 people that finished the quickest. And I could see the first fella. So David Gillick finished, or Satanto Halpine finished first, and then David Gillick was behind him. And I could see them at the top of this ridge, and we'd walk for like 9 hours with massive weight on our backs, and my whole body had cramped up, and I was toured for literally the whole thing. And then next minute, Eric Donovan came up beside me. I was like, oh, Eric, Jesus, you know. So the 2 of us started trying to run, and then more lads come up behind. I was like, oh God. So it was just, I finished, I think, 6th or 7th in it, but like a minute behind the fella who finished 4th, and only the top 4 went in. So I can hold my head up high and say I did really well in it, but I loved every minute of it. And again, I did it for charity as well. I did it for the Children's Health Foundation. So, like, again, it was such a cool thing to be able to do that, raise a few quid, and amazing memories, yeah. So I loved every minute.
And what type of mindset do you need to complete Hell Week?
Stoic. So I spoke to a couple of rangers beforehand, and I spoke to a chap called Niall Barrett who had competed in the civilian version of it. He's based down in Nacy, has Unit 3 fitness. He's actually a boxing coach, but he's an amazing fitness gym. And Niall was unbelievably good to me and generous with his information. So he'd previously competed in it, and I went up and done a few training sessions, and he fucked me up in those training sessions. Excuse the language, but he did. And he gave me a dose of reality, but he also gave me great insight. And then as I said, I spoke to a couple of Army Rangers. I spoke to Ryan Andrews, who'd done the previous celebrity version of it as well, Rory Stories. So I'd got a good bit of information. But I'd reached out for that, and I'd made sure that I did my due diligence, because some people came into it without doing that preparation. And man, if you went into that without being properly prepared, nothing could fully prepare for it. Nothing. It doesn't matter how many people you spoke to. It doesn't matter how much pain you put yourself through. You can't reenact, you know, being dragged out of bed, made stand in the same position for 6-7 hours, holding a bar which is supposed to be your gun, then a hood over your head, dragged out, thrown into a tunnel. Like, it's just so cool. Like, you can't recreate that, you can't train for that, but you can get yourself as close to being mentally ready as possible. I got some great advice. The main thing was, like, they're not going to kill you. It's a TV show, you know, so you're not a real army person. And the best saying that I got out of, like, you know, I'm not a stoic, but I certainly done a good bit of research into stoicism and that type of mindset. And yeah, it was Marcus Aurelius, who I think everybody remembers from the Gladiator movie. But the real Marcus Aurelius back in the day was a stoic, and he was a philosopher as well. And this too will pass. And I have that. I keep that with me every day, because when you're in a bad moment, whether it's financially or mentally or physically, unfortunately, physically sometimes, your health can catch you. But if you're keeping yourself fit and you're, doing the right things, you're usually in a good position. But bad moments will pass. So, like, if anyone's having mental health issues, they should always say that to themselves. This too will pass, because it will. I've had some really tight financial times in the not too far distant past. I had people that weren't paying me, and I had huge bills coming in, and it was really, really tough. And like, I was going to have to tell my missus we can't go on holidays, all these type of things. But I did say to myself, look, work hard, get yourself back again. This too will pass. So the bad times will pass, and the good times will come. But also, don't be getting too cocky when your good times. That hero moment on home rescue is lovely, but this too will pass. There could be somebody trying to knock you down a week later, you know what I mean, as in trying to attack your character or whatever. So again, Alan Shearer, the footballer, used to always say, like, they'd be saying to him, they used to give out to him for not celebrating that much after he scored a hat-trick. He'd run away and he'd celebrate the goal, but afterwards, when he's being interviewed, they'd be saying, Alan, you just scored a hat-trick. And he say, yeah, well, look, I'm delighted with that, but, when I don't score for 4 matches in a row, you're going to come to me and you're going to ask me, how am I feeling? So I'm feeling great that I've scored the goals, but when I haven't scored in 5 or 6 matches, I'll also stay confident and I'll also tell you I'm feeling great. So I love that. I love this mentality, and it's a very similar thing. Enjoy the good moments, and absolutely remember the hurt in your stomach from the bad moments, but the good moment won't define you, and the bad moment won't define you. It's the bits in the middle, and it's how you are as a person each day. So I suppose all of those type of things is what I've taken out of that experience, and it was good to kind of dip into that heavy training and into that heavy mindset. Being a soldier is no joke. Like, I mean, I did it for whatever, the training and for a week. Like, those guys have to keep themselves ultra fit. They're going into real war, real battle. Like the Irish Army Ranger Wing, phenomenal. Look, they always overachieve. Totally under-respected in terms of people think that the Irish Army is a joke. It's far from it. Yes, we're under-resourced, but look, we don't go to war often, thanks be to God. We're usually in as peacekeepers, but our Ranger Wing is the elite of the elite, and we're always finishing in the top. So when you've got those lads screaming and shouting at you and putting you through your paces, you really, really know it. So it was a great moment to dip into it and to be able to feel it and see what it was like,
I remember watching it and I was thinking, my God, you'd want some mindset to survive. I was so impressed.
Thanks very much. I think I suppose to sum up, the mindset thing, like, you can be as fit as you want and you can be as physically strong as you want, but if you don't have the right mindset, and again, I think that's in life, isn't it? Like, I mean, you see the small guy who's bullying everybody and they're going, how does he do that? It's because of his mindset. You can see a person who's just impermeable to insults, and it's their mindset. So I think, having a strong mindset, they often say that we humans only use, I think, is it 60 or 70% of our mind power, and I can kind of see that, so when the aliens come and they start using the rest of our mind, I think we'll all become more intelligent. My wife is mad into aliens, so I love mentioning aliens and these things, but I do think if you and there's no doubt about it, like, I dipped into areas where I accepted pain. Honestly, I accepted it. I just went, I am absolutely in serious pain here. I'm not going to show it on my face, and I'm not even going to let my mind think about it. And that was interesting, because I'd never done that before in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, and I would have a good pain tolerance, but that physical exhaustion. If you actually say to yourself, I'm so shattered, and this is terrible, your whole body and your mind start thinking that. Where if you say to yourself, I'm absolutely shattered, but I've only got 12 hours more to go, I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. That little moment of positivity can take you so far.
I woke up this morning complaining with a creak in my neck.
Yeah.
I think I've told 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
Before 10 o'clock.
This too will pass.
So it's the complete opposite of that. I woke up like, it was early, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. I was
Dead.
Like, it's like, what? My back is killing me.
You need to wake up and listen to my problem.
Yeah, I had to tell somebody.
Well, us men, we get it so easy. Women have to go through pregnancy and all of those life cycle things that we don't have to do. So,
true,
they're forever having these pains and they never tell us. And then there's us going, there's something wrong with me back here. I do the same thing to my missus, believe me.
I get told that Celine does tell me and I don't listen.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I think we're all guilty of that one. We're all guilty of that one.
Good as owner now. I've become an expert at that. Yeah. So you're a very busy man. You're flying, so productive, and your energy is.
Thank you so much.
Is huge. So what do you do to work well and live well, which you're obviously doing? What's the balance?
Yeah, it's hard to get the balance, and I'm not going to say I have it perfect, because I don't. But I enjoy the good moments and I look forward to them. So if I've got a holiday coming up, I will try and get myself as prepared as I can, so I'm actually able to take the proper holiday. I'm able to take the break and not have my phone constantly ringing. I give my family and my kids good time. I try and have this thing that when I drive up my driveway, there's a bit of a hill up to my house, and as I'm driving up the driveway, I've learned to go, see all that stuff, I'm leaving you behind. I'm not going to come in and start unloading all my problems onto Sharon and onto the kids and being that narky father because he's busy in work. He's now going to take it out on his kids. I try and leave that behind. Now, it's not that easy. There are moments, there's moments when I come up, this is brilliant, and I'm throwing the kids around the place and I'll have a great crack, and there's moments where I'm coming up and there's still stuff on my mind. But I try my best not to let I'll hug and kiss all of my kids and my wife every single day I come into the door. Every time I'm leaving, I do the same thing. Try and put the kids to bed every night as we can. All of those type of things are hugely important to me. But I'm also extremely busy, and I'm not going to apologise for that. I want to make money. I want to provide for my family. I want to be successful. So I'm kind of like two different people. You know what I mean? I'm still the same person, but I can be very driven and I can be very forceful to get stuff done in the right way. I've when I was younger, I had that fiery redhead kind of thing going on, but I've eased that person a little bit, and I definitely use it the odd time. But I do now understand that being organised and being solid is much better than being angry. Angry doesn't really get you anything. Not that I was ever mad angry, but I certainly was a little bit of a hothead at times, and I get a moment of satisfaction for giving out to somebody or for maybe standing up to somebody, and then I went, I actually didn't really benefit from that. And now I've that relationship broken with that person. Whereas if somebody's being a bit aggressive to me, I can kind of talk them through it now. Now I'll also say to myself, right, I'm never going to work with you again. But I can also, there's moments where I go, oh, Jesus, that apprentice is after breaking that thing for the fourth time. Whereas I used to snap and give out. Now I can just go, look, Chief, can't do that. That's the fourth time you've done it now. If you do it again, genuinely, you're going to take it out of your wages. And guess what happens? He doesn't do it again. So stuff like that, I kind of got better at doing. But look, nobody's perfect. Things change all the time. It is what it is. I try my best to be there for my family. I'm a good provider. I always have been. I'm not a bad person. I don't ever negatively affect someone. I do a lot of karate, a lot of jiu-jitsu. I'm well able to stick up for myself and stand up for myself, but I never bully people. So that's just the way it is. Maybe sometimes people can be intimidated by my drive. And look, I think we're living in a much more sensitive world than we used to be. But I do think that I try and be as positive as I can. And I love connecting with positive people. I love supporting people. I think you're doing great stuff, Chief. I really do. And I love having chats with you whenever we start talking, and I go, Jesus, a half an hour later, we both better go back to work type thing, which is a really nice thing to have with somebody that, let's be honest, we know each other, we don't know each other that well, but I think we have a lot of good symmetry. And I love seeing fellas doing well, and I genuinely mean that. I love when comedians do well. I love when, we can see a fella and I go, jeez, look at him, he's really doing well for himself, like fair play to him. And that's an honest reaction from me. I wouldn't be jealous. I wouldn't go, oh, I want that. I'd never do that. I'd never go, I want to take his good stuff. I've felt that off people. I've seen people be jealous of what I've achieved, and sometimes they create a monster in their own head where they go, "Oh, that guy's doing great for himself. Everything must be perfect for him." Nobody's world is perfect. No, nobody's world is perfect. So don't be trying to be. I'd never try to put someone down to try and give myself one up, and I think that's a good principle to have. If you can just be solid in your own business, and if you can help people out, grand. Now, if somebody falls out with you, I'm very quick to keep distance from them, and I'll just separate from them. And I think that's a good quality to have as well. I'm getting better at knowing who was a good person and a bad person, and I'm getting better at saying no to people. I used to say yes to too many people. I used to try and be all things to all people for a while. And I'm not saying I was a yes man to everybody, but I certainly did things that I shouldn't have done. There was no benefit to it. And what happened was I did too much for one person that was probably not going to get much of a benefit out, and it weakened what I was doing for someone else, or weakened what I was doing in my business. So look, I have a lot going on. I have Low Goods as well, the Christmas experience, which has been an amazing. I taught that up 11 or 12 years ago, and now the business is 10 years up and running this year, and it's going really well. It's a phenomenal thing. If people haven't been there, they need to come and visit it. Yeah,
it's absolutely some job you did there.
We reinvested nearly €1 million in it this year. Would you believe that? We only done the numbers the other day. I can't believe it was $1 million, but it was. And you can see it, like it's phenomenal. Like, we've got a train that goes through the forest is all lit up. We brought Lapland to literally a natural forest and the back hills of Saggart, and a view overlooking Dublin city. So huge reinvestment, but very satisfying to see that coming through, and it's a great investment. And it also gives great employment to all the young and old people. So we've got Santa Claus and then we've got elves. Two different spectrums, two different ages. We've got lads in the car park. You know, my cousin is involved with it, and his wife basically runs the business, and then I support her as well. We all kind of support around, but she's the lead in the business, Elaine. And it's a great thing to be involved in lots of different ways. And it's brought something to our community that wasn't there as well. You know, like loads of our own relations have worked there and are working there, and then there's loads of people in the general area that are working, and people travelling from all over the place to work there, but also travelling to visit, and they're going there to have a family moment. So it's a family entertainment. We do Easter, Halloween and Christmas. Christmas is the big one, but seeing people coming and enjoying something that you've created, there's a buzz out of that as well, you know.
And I've been to a few of these different ones with the kids over the years, but Lugwoods is the best. You know, and we're booked in this year.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, so we're going up next week maybe, but we're all buzzing for it. So we do a whole tradition like where my dad and my sister now, who's 19, she won't miss it. Do you know what I mean? She goes with her kids. So we're really looking forward to it.
That's so cool.
What's the changes this year? Spoiler alert for me, but
yeah, well, again, until you see them, like I can explain. So we basically went to China and bought 2 trains, and they're real old school, traditional kind of looking trains. But the big thing that we did was we've lengthened. So it used to be about like an hour and 15 to 20 minutes, and it was a walk through the forest, and you had all these interactions with different characters. So that is still a similar concept in that you do the walk, but we've built loads of really nice log cabin type structures, and we've got proper actors involved now. We've reinvested in all of our costumes are now really high end, so you actually enter into like a wonderland, and we've really trained everybody involved, right from the receptionist all the way through, to make sure that comes across, you know. So we want people to think for that period of time they're in Lapland, basically. They're in a new environment, you know, and like we've snow and all these type of things going on as well. So there's a huge amount of changes that way. We've upscaled everything, and then the city view at the end, so where you actually visit Santa is overlooking the whole of Dublin City.
Oh,
so
it's stunning.
It's phenomenal, like, you know.
It's a magic moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the wow moment when you get up to the top and you look down.
I know, and again, like, we invest an awful lot of time in the storyline as well, because there's lots of Christmas experiences out there, and don't get me wrong, you can get a really nice picture in front of a Christmas scene in a lot of these places, but none of them tie it together the way we do. So we've got a proper storyline, and you go on a journey. There's a sense of achievement, and the kids save Christmas, and they get their parents to help them, and the daddies have to do a dance and get snowballs thrown at them, and loads of cool things like that as well, you know. So all of that, I think we do different, and we make sure that, you know, it's a journey and it's an experience. It's not just a turn up and meet Santa, you know, in a place where you can see 2 or 3 other rooms. Like, we don't. There's one Santa Claus. That's it. And, you know, it's a very intimate moment, and we respect that to the highest level. And again, it was because I had seen other places that weren't doing it right that I said, right, we need to do this. It's a premium product, and it's really well delivered. So, no, I get a real buzz out of it. Like, I mean, I was only there the other day, and a woman walked into the reception, and I was working, and she came up, and I didn't know if she had a problem with her car or what was going on, and she said, look, I just have to come in and say, we've been coming here for 5 years, and I have to say, this is phenomenal what you've done this year. And I didn't want to leave without coming back in to let you know that. And I was like, wow, like, I'll be honest, I was like, boom, hit me in the heart now. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. She said that her kid had autism, and that, like, you know, she said that she felt that the whole thing was phenomenally ran, and it allowed for that type of thing to happen. Now, look, you know, there's noises and there's flashes of lights, but what we try and do is give people the environment that they can step out if they want to, and give them space, you know. It would be very easy for us to oversell tickets and make more money, but we don't do that. We try and keep it, you know, just nicely timed. We want people to come in and have a nice experience in a comfortable moment, because it's very hard to enjoy your family moment if there's somebody else pushing you out of the way to get you know, forward. So there's a lot of moving parts in it, and it's not an easy process. The weather can have some effects, but in general, we've set it up in such a way that pretty much anybody can come at any time, either during the day or in the evening, and they're going to have an amazing experience, you know.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you very much.
And not to forget that Lugwoods has the real Santa Claus.
100%. He really does. He's a phenomenal man, and because of the view of able to see the whole of Dublin City, it was his ideal location to come up. And he's going to be a busy man coming up soon now, you know. Yeah. I hope you've been good this year, Dave, have you? Santa will know.
Oh, I tell myself I was anyway. When the
Well,
other
if you,
people
listen,
do.
if you listen to this podcast, you think we're both great lads, you know.
True. So yeah, fair play, Pete. That was a great chat. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mil, for coming in. And if anybody wants to reach out to you,
Yeah, well, I'm
Find you.
Pete_the Builder on Instagram. I have that crazy Pete the Builder fella doing all sorts of mad things on Instagram. I enjoy that bit of crack. I dip in and dip out of it. But I try and give a bit of value there by giving people some tips and all that type of stuff. My company is MDS Construction. Again, probably Instagram is the easiest way to contact me directly if somebody wants to be sound, or I'll just block you. Other than that, like, come to Lugwoods and come and see the real Santa Claus in Lapland in the Dublin mountains.
deadly. Fair play, Pete. Thanks, Mil.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me, and I really appreciate it.